Three, two, one. Welcome to the channel, everybody. I was kind of rushing late, and so I didn't do my intro like I'm supposed to do. I'm sorry. If you are new to our channel, welcome to the channel. We are so glad to have you here. My name is Elizabeth, and this is Sweet Tater. She's my mommy.
Hello.
And so we've got her tonight. We have got a bombshell show. So what we are going to listen to is we are going to listen, or we're going to watch the new videos. I also got the show from last night, the court TV show from last night. So we're going to watch that because I know so many people had such a hard time finding it. I just now got it. I haven't even watched it. So we're going to watch it together. And then we are going to, Vinny has this all came from court TV. Vinny has his own show that he does like by himself, and he also pulled these videos up, and he had, it seems like there's longer clips in his that he did by himself. So we're going to watch this one first, and you guys can watch it with us. And listen, there's some good juicy stuff here. All right, so let's start. Man.
I'm Vinny Politan. The subject of my investigation is the shooting of a Kentucky judge in his own chambers by the local sheriff. And it's all on video. Why is the question that everyone is trying to figure out. Here's the story. Whitesburg, Kentucky is a small rural community of under 2,000 residents in eastern Kentucky. It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other, a place where many folks have both personal and professional connections. And that was the situation with the local sheriff, Sean Mickey Stines, and the only judge in town, Kevin Mullins. Both had great reputations and were known especially for their work in trying to help their community battle the opioid epidemic, which was taking so many lives and destroying so many families. On September 19th, 2024, the judge and the sheriff grabbed lunch together with some other people. Later that afternoon, the sheriff headed over to the judge's chambers. Once he got there, he went into the judge's office for a closed-door private meeting. What happened next, no one in this small town expected. The sheriff fired his gun several times, taking the life of Judge Mullins in his own chambers. Now, with Sheriff Mickey Stines charged with first-degree murder, everyone is wondering what is going on in this small Kentucky town. There was a lot of video evidence of that day, including the actual shooting is all caught on video. Now, what we're doing is we're going to freeze it at the moment that the shots are fired. But as you look at this, this is the crime. There's no sound to the video. It is video only. But you can see the judge desperately trying to save himself and hide from the sheriff, but the sheriff continues to pursue him. Then the sheriff's about to leave, but he notices that he's still moving and fires once again. And everyone's saying, why? Well, I think part of the way you get there to understand is you have to get inside his head. You need to get inside the head of this sheriff. And that's one place that we can't get to, likely until the trial. But we have all this video evidence. We have some audio as well. And we've got the actual killing on video. So all of this demonstrates what's going on, and you can observe it, you can see it, and in some cases you can hear it. And that brings me to the first question in our investigation. It's about the sheriff's behavior. What does the sheriff's behavior tell us about his mental state? All his actions that day, the way he appears, what he says, how he says it. Is this a premeditated, calculated killing? Is there something going on inside of his head? What does the evidence, the video, the audio tell us? Joining me, she's been covering this, the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube, closely following this case. Elizabeth Jones is with us, and joining us right now on the phone, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist and author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho is with us as well. So let's do this. I want to take a look at some video that we haven't really shown before. And this is the video before the shooting, way before the shooting, before lunch. And you can see the person closest to the
Sorry, y'all. I'm getting excited. I don't know why I did not recognize him last night when I was on his show. The boy sitting in the window, that's the preacher, y'all. That's Michael Clark. That's the preacher man right there. We're also going to watch his little video that he put out right after this happened. And when we watch this video more, I want you guys to pay attention to the body language between Mickey and Michael, because I wonder if Mickey, it looks to me like Mickey says something, and then Kevin starts laughing, and Michael kind of just turns his head. And it looks to me like they were making fun of him for whatever he had said. But you guys watch it. I've watched it today. So watch.
To the bottom of the screen, that's the sheriff. And there's the judge and a few other guys. Everyone is there. And does anything appear off? Does anything appear wrong? This is at noon, just before they all go out to lunch. And this seems a lot like a normal day. I want to start on this video. Elizabeth Jones, do we know anything about the folks that they were hanging out together before lunch?
Well, that's the first time I've seen that video. Thank you for having me. That looks to be like our circuit court clerk, Mike Watts, who's standing there next to the judge. And he is a great guy. And then we have Mickey sitting there in the bottom, and I can't really see very well who the other two are.
And from your coverage of all this and being there and living close by, do we know who was at that lunch? And is it possible that some of these folks could have been at that lunch that sort of is in between this and then the shooting?
From what I have heard about that lunch, Mickey had been acting really funny for days, if not weeks, before this happened. And even his deputies had felt his odd behavior. And from what I was told, the deputies weren't actually sitting with Mickey at that lunch. So,
but there were deputies at the lunch, but they weren't with him.
Well, I was told that they were not sitting with him at that lunch.
Interesting. I want to show one more thing, and then we'll get to Dr. Judy Ho on some of this. We have some video now. This is from just after the shooting, and we've zoomed in on this, and you can see people getting out of that courthouse. But
now let me stop it real quick, because you're gonna see Mickey walk out of the front doors there at the courthouse, and it looks to me like it's the two women. See, I was imagining the other side of the courthouse. And so I was thinking he came out that side door over there where they used to smoke all the time, where the jail is. I thought that he had come out that door and then come up and come through the front. No, he comes out the front door, and then you see those two women that talk to him. Just watch.
You will also see the sheriff exit the courthouse, and there he comes. I believe that's him coming down the steps in the white. He comes out. Now he is turning the corner and walking seemingly.
Now, let me stop too, because I want to also say this. Are you guys noticing that nobody's running? Like this was supposed to be an active pew-pew person at the courthouse. They've not caught him. Nobody knows what happened. And you're going to see all of our law enforcement come rushing in, and it doesn't seem to me like anybody's trying to get people away from the courthouse. It's just a very, very odd atmosphere.
Casually.
Look, nobody's running.
Turns
nobody's
the
worried.
Corner, and we have a different angle of the same thing happening as we can watch the sheriff. Again, this is just moments after the shooting.
That's a better
calmly view. Walking out, walking past everyone. This is, and now you can see the responders are coming. It looks like he turns
like they're not trying to
them,
get people away,
and may actually be talking to
what
some of the officers who were responding to shots fired in the courthouse. But the shots were fired by him. And again, there he is, and now he is returning. He's coming back around that corner. You see the way he's walking. And now he's going back in, and we believe that he's going back in to turn himself in. Okay. Dr. Judy Ho. He's very calm afterwards. What does that tell us, if anything? He's with the victim before lunch, casually sitting in the chamber.
That was a very good point. Somebody said, wasn't there like 5 loud noises? No, there was more than that. The judge had 8 holes in him. So it wasn't like one firecracker sound. There was close to a dozen. And everybody's just standing around? That just shocks the crap out of me.
Chambers, everyone seems to be friendly. What's going on here, Dr. Judy Ho?
Well, Vinny, this is very, very odd behavior, especially after the fact that he just essentially gunned down the judge. And usually you'd see that the person is probably going to be exiting quickly. They're certainly not going to return to the crime scene. Also, just as you pointed out, there was such a casual way about him, as if he's just strolling out, not even.
But it's not just a casual way about him. It's a casual way about everybody. You only saw, one officer there running?
Even on the same plane as people who were essentially running away from the courthouse because they heard that shots were fired and were trying to get out of the dangerous situation that they were all in. And I've heard your podcaster guest mention that there were some peculiar behaviors possibly leading up to the shooting. And it does make me wonder, what was his mental state at the time? Because this does not, to me, look like a person who either, one, understands the gravity of what he did, but also, two, just the fact that the emotions are so misaligned. You do sometimes see that when somebody is undergoing, for example, a psychotic episode, among other types of mental health events.
Now we've got some more video from that day. Again, this is the day of the shooting. You can see this is when he's being arrested. He's walking by the front of the cruiser. He's going to be placed in the back and transported. Now, he's the sheriff at that moment of Letcher County, so he's not going to go and be incarcerated in Letcher County, the jail that he's in charge of. So the troopers are putting him in a cruiser, and they're going to transport him to another facility. Now, we also have video from the time he's being transported. You won't see the sheriff, but you will hear him because he's in the back seat. Let's listen.
Now, come on. Y'all gonna leave me in here and let me die of heat exhaustion? No, I can't get up in there. Come on now. Come on. I can't. Yeah, man, I can't get in. These stuffs are way too tight. Come on now, guys. Come on now. Keep going. I know it's tight. Keep sliding. Pick your leg up, my brother. Y'all got carbon monoxide in here. Come on now. Come on. I can't say it like this. Slide sideways. I can't. Come on now. Be fair to me. We're being good to you, brother. Stick your leg up in there. Come on now, guys. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Please. You want to scoot on over a little bit to the left? Come on now. Try to scoot on over a little bit more. That way we don't hit you. Can you go a little bit farther? I just want to hit you with the door. Put your knee in there, my friend. Hey, Jason. Hey, Bates. All right. Hey, Bates. Can we loosen this up a little or give the window down? I'm sorry? Can we loosen this up a little? Be fair to me, man. I got some air. I'll crack the window for you, but I can turn the air on back here. Okay? Yeah. Be fair to me now. I promise, man. Yeah, I promise. God, please. I promise. It's hot back here, man. I can't breathe.
Okay, Dr. Judy Ho, what are your thoughts here? This is the moment that he's put in the cruiser. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. It's hot in here. Be fair to me, boys.
Good question.
Yeah, it's very possible that there's some recognition of what's actually happening. And I think, Vinny, that it's extremely possible that he was in the middle of having a panic attack. And sometimes that happens, especially when somebody is in hypervigilant state, when they're in a fight or flight state. I think he's starting to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm being put in the back of the cruiser. I'm being arrested. What's going to happen to me now? And, sure, he might be uncomfortable, but the fact that he was repeating over and over again that sentiment of, I'm too hot. Can you adjust something? Can you loosen this up? And he kept saying, come on now, come on now, come on now. Oftentimes when people are having a panic attack, there is a repetitive either vocal tic or a behavioral tic because they're trying to get themselves under control. And I'm not certain that he was able to think very straight in that moment. So he just kept repeating the same things over and over again, very basic words. It appears that he may have been having a panic attack just then.
Now, there's another statement he made, and we're going to play testimony from a state police detective who's going to talk about something else that the sheriff said on that day shortly after the shooting.
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid.
All right, Elizabeth Jones, they're trying to kidnap my wife and my kid. That is a statement, we learned that early on, but we don't understand it. Does anyone out there understand what he meant when he said that?
That's still a big mystery, that part. But can I point out two things that I
Absolutely,
noticed
Elizabeth.
with that video? Okay. Number one, do you notice that nobody is running from the courthouse after that happened? They're all just sitting out on the front stoop with their hands in their lap. Nobody's running, and they haven't caught them. Number two, my second point, there were two ladies who were on the top floor of the courthouse when this happened. And one of them shared her experience with me right afterwards. And
Let me stop that real quick. Let me go back here and show you all this. You see this courtroom right here? This is, I heard Vinny say it earlier today, and he got it kind of wrong. So there's only two courtrooms in this courthouse. You've got one courtroom downstairs, which was Kevin's courtroom. His courtroom right there, you see it. And his judge's chambers is off to the side here behind this lady sitting at the table. And then his bench is kind of in front of her there in the corner. And they didn't show his courtroom in any of the other videos except this one. This is the first one that I'm seeing that shows the courtroom. And then there's another courtroom upstairs, but you have to go through an elevator to get up there, or you have to go to the stairs that are all the way in the back of the courthouse and go up that way. And so the upstairs deals with nothing but felonies. And then the circuit court clerk's office is also upstairs. And that was Mike Watts, who was also in that room with the judge and them. Now, I had it wrong. I thought it was Michael Watts, who is his son. Michael Watts is the assistant county attorney, Commonwealth attorney, you name it. Michael's got his hands in all of it when it comes to the cases in the courthouse. Good dude. Michael is a really good dude. He's good like his daddy. I like his daddy real well. The man that was in that court, in the chambers with him. The little man with the, like a suit shirt on and some khaki pants or something.
With their hands in their lap. Nobody's running and they haven't caught them. Number two, my second point. There were two ladies who were on the top floor of the courthouse when this happened. And one of them shared her experience with me right afterwards. And she said that she ran up to Mickey. She saw him on the sidewalk there after it happened. And she ran up to him and hugged him and told him to be careful because there was a shooter in the courthouse.
Wow. Unreal. This is an unreal story. Dr. Judy Ho, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Elizabeth Jones is going to stay with us. We've got more to get to. Up next, would an insanity defense work in this case?
There will be an issue as to criminal responsibility.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here now?
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson, I think.
There will with Mr. Steele about is that we do believe that there will be an issue as to criminal responsibility. We've consulted with, folks with regards to that issue. I reached out to Mr. Steele and we basically decided that we would raise this as a joint motion. I know that, once we provide that notice, the Commonwealth is entitled to have their expert evaluate Mr. Stines. And out of expediency, I believe that Mr. Steele and I would ask for an order for that evaluation to go ahead and take place.
What I would recommend is that we go ahead and get the order entered in regards to competency and criminal responsibility. I might as well go ahead and have that addressed since we're going to be doing that.
So Mickey Stines, the former sheriff, will be getting and is getting psychological evaluations, which brings us straight to the next question in our investigation. Would an insanity defense work in this case? Some sort of mental disease or defect? What was going on with the sheriff? We saw the way he acted afterwards. We've heard about what people were saying about how he was acting beforehand. Still with me, Elizabeth Jones. And joining me, representing the woman suing Mickey Stines, Ned Pillersdorf is with us as well. Ned, also a great criminal defense attorney in Kentucky. Thank you both. Elizabeth, a little more information. You mentioned that people were saying he was acting odd. In what sense was he acting odd? Was he delusional? Was he paranoid? Did anyone get a sense for what made them think he was acting odd?
Well, they said that he had not slept in days and that he was acting really paranoid and that he was in fear for his life. His aunt is who he stayed with, from what I've learned, for a couple days before this happened. And what has been told is that he walked all night. He never laid down.
Ned Pillersdorf, let me ask you, he's being evaluated. We're hearing some of the observations people are making about how he was acting beforehand, you know, leading up to the time of the shooting. What are your thoughts about an insanity defense in this case?
This is clearly not a defendant who has your typical insanity defense. You know, generally an insanity defense is someone who's got a history of schizophrenia, delusional beliefs. This is more nuanced. It really goes back to, you know, his defense attorney. I'm sure the first question they asked him, why did you do it? And he clearly had some intense beliefs that caused him to act in such bizarre, unbelievable conduct. So it's not your typical insanity defense. It's more, we would call it, you know, as a criminal defense lawyer, you know, the way you lose a case like this is the jury believes the deceased is the victim, that he did nothing wrong and he was killed for no reason. What I suspect is going on is, and the fact that Stines wants to be tried in his home county, he is going to try to make it look like Sheriff Judge Mullins was not really a victim, that what caused all this was some type of conduct that Mullins himself caused that provoked Stines to act in the unbelievable way he did. This is, you know, as I've said before, this is, you know, by the way, John Grisham could not have imagined these crazy facts.
No,
But to me,
it's beyond.
There's two ways to look at this. One is Stines' defense will likely be that Mullins did something that so inflamed him. And where the request for funds for a psychological defense is basically to tell that story. And
then have the story come into evidence perhaps through the expert rather than the sheriff having to take the stand?
That's one reason, although I would suspect Stines will take the stand.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's the sheriff.
Let me ask, I want to ask Elizabeth one thing, just about folks on the ground there, right? Do you think they would buy some sort of insanity defense? Do you think they would say, oh, well, yeah, he had to be insane to do what he did?
No, there are two different reputations here. Mickey had a completely different reputation in this county than the judge did. The judge had somewhat of a ladies' man and maybe not so good reputation. Mickey was, you know, looked at as salt of the earth, family man, would help anybody. I mean, there's always going to be a handful of people that don't get along with him and don't like him. But for the majority of the people in this county, as soon as this incident happened, it was blind loyalty and support no matter what happened. If Mickey did this, then there had to be a good reason for it.
Wow.
That's the majority of the view.
And that's right in sync with what Ned is saying here. All right, Elizabeth and Ned are going to stay with us. We've got a lot more to cover. Was the shooting connected to the sextortion scandal? Murder. Here's the story. Appalachia is part of eastern Kentucky where the towns are small and the folks all look out for each other. There's a lot of respect for law enforcement and the justice system. And folks who work in that system get to know each other very well. And that was the case for the local sheriff, Mickey Stines, and his friend, District Judge Kevin Mullins. But like any place, sometimes there is controversy. In Letcher County, it was a deputy who got caught sexually assaulting female inmates in the judge's chambers after hours. That deputy was the bailiff for Judge Kevin Mullins and worked under Sheriff Mickey Stines. That was a couple of years ago, but now everyone is taking another look at that case because something else happened in the judge's chambers. The judge was shot and killed, and Sheriff Mickey Stines is the one being charged with first-degree murder of a public official, and it was all caught on camera. I want to zero in on this sextortion case because this is, again, these two things happening in the same place involving some of the same people. Is it a coincidence? What's going on here? So Ben Fields, this is the man who got caught and prosecuted. Former Letcher County deputy pleaded guilty to raping a female prisoner who was on home incarceration. Civil lawsuit by several women claim that Fields used his position to pressure them into sex. District Judge Kevin Mullins, one of the sexual encounters between Fields and the victim occurred in Judge Mullins' chambers in the Letcher County Courthouse. Fields was his bailiff. Sheriff Mickey Stine, named in the civil lawsuit, accused of failing to properly train and supervise Fields. 3 days, just 3 days before the shooting, Stines was deposed in that civil case. Now, I want you to take a listen to this audio recording of one of the accusers in the civil lawsuit talking about what was going on and what she has seen. Absolutely jaw-dropping, her allegations.
He does have some videotapes of some stuff in the judge's chambers.
What kind of stuff?
Just with girls sexual and stuff.
What describe? Have you seen the videos?
I've seen one partly in, just him having sex with girls to further be able to get out of jail.
Who was having sex?
Ben and just some higher ups up there.
Who?
The judge and.
You saw the video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did you see on the video? I mean, you.
I mean, I've seen Judge Mullins have sex with a girl.
Who was the girl?
I don't know, because I don't know a lot of people from over there.
Where was it at?
In his office, in the judge's chambers.
Is that the same place that you were meeting Ben? Is that how you know it was the judge's chambers?
Yeah.
And this was Judge who?
Mullins.
But you saw the video of the judge.
Yes.
Any other videos that you actually saw?
No. Mm-mm. They say that the Sheriff Mickey Stines is involved. I don't know.
Who said that?
Chad, he said he had videos with Mickey. Mickey used to do the same thing when he was over house arrest.
So Mickey Stines used to be the bailiff and a deputy before he was sheriff, and there's an accusation there. Now, all this came to light, these recordings from the investigation that was being done by the state. They're the ones who released this audio because it's a public record. But you've got the sextortion taking place, then you've got the shooting taking place. Is it a coincidence or not? Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Was the shooting connected to the sextortion scandal? Could it possibly be a coincidence? Or is there a nexus here? Joining me, the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. You've got to take a look at the work that she's doing out there. She's closely following this case, Elizabeth Jones, and representing the woman suing Sean Mickey Stines. Ned Pillersdorf is with us. Okay, let me ask you, Elizabeth, what is going on here? Did you hear about this sextortion before the shooting, or did all this come to light for you at the same time that it did for us? Like, we didn't hear about this thing beforehand. You're on the ground there. Was this a big deal before the shooting of the judge?
There have been rumors about the judge's chambers for years and years and years. They just didn't really come out and say who was in the judge's chambers. But one of the things that I found really, really interesting when I went through the depositions was in Mickey's, we find out that Ben was sent for a polygraph and that he admitted to having sexual relations while he was on duty when he worked at the jail, and admitting that he drank on the job when he worked at the jail. And the way that that polygraph came to Mickey was that all he did was read the cover page. And so apparently there's a loophole in there somewhere where they can just admit to their crimes and their wrongs. And as long as they don't lie in the polygraph, they're suitable for hire.
It's mind-boggling, all of this. Now, obviously, Ned, you're connected with that civil litigation. I want you, though, before you answer this question, I want you to take a listen to Mickey's attorney answering this question.
Do you know whether this is connected to the federal lawsuit he was a part of? Is there any connection between these?
I think that the timing of what occurred is certainly something that is going to be a crucial point in this case. The timing of the deposition, amongst other things and other background information that will complete that story. But I do, yes, to answer your question, I do believe that is a piece. This is a large story. That's a story that in some ways is difficult to tell. We look forward to sharing a more complete version of that as we go through this judicial process.
All right, Ned, what are you thinking here? When he says it's a piece, and they're specifically talking about the lawsuit, but are the other pieces the total scandal that was taking place, apparently, with all these women who were going to drug court and then were being coerced into these and being abused?
Stines is well represented by his attorney, and on several occasions he keeps saying that somehow the lawsuit that I'm involved in played a role in this situation. The lawsuit was a sweeping lawsuit. I mean, we basically alleged that they turned that courthouse, and I've used the word, into a brothel. Fields, we know, we're convinced, hit on at least 3 different women, and this went on for a while. Now, was Stines involved? Our lawsuit doesn't accuse Stines of being personally involved. It basically says he knew or should have known. And in fairness to Stines and the defendants, they deny the allegations. My co-counsel took Stines' deposition in my office. I was there. And then 3 days later, the shooting happened. And my first thought was, is this all related? The lawsuit, we filed it, I think, in January, about 2 years ago. The video you played of Miss Atkins, who we represent, the timing of that's interesting. That was actually what's called a proffer. Before Fields was indicted, the Attorney General's office came down and interviewed Miss Atkins for several hours. I was actually sitting there and gave that information. Generally, when I file a civil rights lawsuit, typically the prosecution arm doesn't really want to come in and help my clients because we're generally suing police officers or public officials. But I think what happened in this particular case, Fields had texted my client and left no doubt this was going on. Thereafter, and I give the Attorney General's office high marks, not only did they indict Stines, they then actually went to a criminal mediation. Take that back, they indicted Fields. I misspoke. And Fields actually pled guilty. And this was not a no contest plea, Vinny. And in Kentucky, you just can't walk into the courtroom and say, I want to plead guilty. There's a plea bargain I like. You actually have to be under oath and say, I did this. And he pled guilty to the sexual acts with Miss Atkins.
Sorry. I wanted to stop and say something about that real quick, because each time that he has said that, it's made me think, Let's hear it
actually
again.
pled guilty. And this was not a no contest plea, Vinny. And in Kentucky, you just can't walk into the courtroom and said, I want to plead guilty. There's a plea bargain I like. You actually have to be under oath and say, I did this.
Okay. Each time I've heard him say that, it makes me think of the Patrick Little case, which was also a sexual, excuse me, a sexual abuse case that was here in Letcher County. And Patrick Little was the college roommate of Judge Mullins. And the man ended up pleading guilty, and he got a recommended sentence of 5 years on house arrest and work release. Something I've never in my life ever heard about. He never served 1 day in jail. He got a recommended sentence. And after he pled guilty, he's went out and told everybody that'll listen that he's innocent. He didn't do this, but his lawyer made him plead guilty. Because if he took it to trial, he was looking at a lot more time. Well, if that's the case, then, and I wondered about that, if you plead guilty to something, don't you have to get up and take ownership and accountability and say, yes, I did this? And you're doing it under oath. So I just wanted to point that out there.
And he pled guilty to the sexual acts with Miss Atkins and actually perjury involving Miss Atkins when he actually swore out a warrant for her for bail jumping. And of course, the bail jumping was she'd cut off the sex and she was no longer on the ankle bracelet. So it's important to point out that Fields had pled guilty, was under oath and said, I did this. Yep. You know, how is this all connected to the shooting? His lawyer says that's part of the defense.
It's going to be.
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, that's going to bring us to our next question, and still to come. What is the missing piece in all of this?
Maybe we're almost to the jail. One last time. Is there anything? Just anything to do with your family?
No one sees the celebrity stylist.
I'll take me to you. Y'all taking me to you. Don't hurt me now, boys. We told you guys, come on. Come on now, guys. The guys, no guys. To the jail. Right there. This is not the jail. I promise you. Yeah, this is not the jail now. Okay, Mickey. Anyway, so do you want to talk about it? Is this to do with anything with your family, your daughter, or anything? Bring it on in. Who are you passing me off to? Leslie. We talked about it. This is Leslie County Jail. Who are you passing me off to, though? No, nobody. He knows the way here. We didn't know the way. Oh, yeah. Y'all are passing me off here now to somebody. I don't know why you think this. Y'all are going to let somebody hurt me. Yeah. Come on now, guys. Be fair. Yeah. Don't pass me off to nobody. The only people we're passing you off to is the jailers. Yeah. Just okay.
And there you could hear the voice of Mickey Stines, fearing something, scared of something, expressing that. Where am I going? You're going to hurt me. Be fair. You're going to hurt me. Be fair. So we've got this video and audio of him afterwards. We have video of the shooting. We have video of what was happening beforehand. Yet I still don't understand what happened here. Brings me to the next question in our investigation. It's like a puzzle. What is the missing piece here? Or is it missing pieces? Still with me, Elizabeth Jones and Ned Pillersdorf. I want to begin with you, Elizabeth, on what we just heard from the sheriff. What do you think's going on here? Does this sound like paranoia to you, or does he have like a real reason to be in fear?
Well, I initially thought it was very paranoid behavior. But then his lawyer gave that last interview, and he said that Mickey was in a very unique position where he implicated that Mickey was aware of other people's behavior in the courthouse, and that he was afraid that he had already said or that he was getting ready to say the wrong thing, or that he already had said the wrong thing. And I kind of looked at that a little bit differently with the deposition that he did at Ned's office, because one of the things that I noticed in all of the depositions, Mickey had an attorney that represented him in his official capacity, but Daniel Dotson was there to represent him in his a personal capacity. And after that deposition was when Mickey was not sleeping, he was not living at his home. And I just kind of wonder, there have been several people that said that he went to that lawyer's office first before he went to the courthouse, but the lawyer wasn't there.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. I mean, that's the closest I've heard of anything that could get us to that missing piece, that something happened, Ned, during that deposition where maybe he's saying something or implicating someone or saying the wrong thing, which could put him in danger because, you know, the old cliche, he knows too much. What are your thoughts there, Ned?
No, I mean, it is a real puzzle. What's going on here? The sheriff, in my view, acted oddly during his deposition. And the best way to describe it, when he made his initial first appearance after he was arrested, the judge asked him very direct questions, and there were long pauses. A couple times he didn't answer at all, which is odd behavior. This is a sheriff who's used to being in the courtroom and used to listening to a judge ask questions. You know,
now this right here, let me stop it and show you. So the courthouse is up here in the corner, on the left-hand corner at the top. They are walking down the sidewalk there, going to that restaurant, that little restaurant and bar. So they're on their way to lunch during this video right here.
You're talking about guarded answers, like wanting, and we're looking at.
And so let me tell you who this one guy is. This one back here on the right with the black shirt, he is the one, he's the other one in the deposition, Jason Eccles, that they keep talking about in the depositions. Between him and Ben and Mickey, they had that, and a few of the others, they had that group chat that they were talking back and forth and being real childish and making up memes about each other. So that's who that is on the right there in the black shirt behind Mickey. That's one of his, I don't think he's a deputy. I think he's court security too.
A video. This is after the lunch. You see Mickey walking back to the court.
And that girl in the black sweater there with the pink shirt, I think that is Kevin's court lady. I think that's the one who sits in his courtroom during court and like fills out all the paperwork and stuff, like makes the scheduling and whatever. I don't know what she'd be called. But that's the same girl that shows up in the video in his chambers.
House, and you see some of the folks who I guess were at the lunch following it. And there he is leaving.
Now they're headed back.
Let me put this up on the screen too, because I think there's some other things going on here. This is from News Nation. Sources tell News Nation that Stines and his wife had some sort of a dispute the night before Mullins was fatally shot in his chambers. The spat put him out of the house for the night. Here's Jeremy Bartley, his attorney, addressing rumors that he was not living at home at the time.
Is it true he was not living at home when this happened?
That's untrue.
Okay.
So, Elizabeth, you said you've heard that he stayed at his aunt's home that night, but didn't really stay there, was out walking all night. Were there problems at home? Because I believe I've seen his family in court supporting him.
Yeah, they've been in all of the court hearings with him. What I have heard was that it was just the last few nights right before the shooting at the courthouse. And at first, people were kind of saying, the rumors were saying that she had threw him out. But the more and more that I talked to some people, it sounds more like he left on his own because he was so fearful for his life.
Wow. Trying to put together this missing piece. It seems that lunch meeting may have been important as well. I want to play Clayton Stamper, detective from Kentucky State Police, talking about the lunch meeting that day, because this, again, is relatively close in time to when the shooting happens. Let's watch and listen.
Prior in the day, there had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins.
There was.
Pardon?
There was.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear your response. I wasn't being trite. So where did this take place?
It's a restaurant called Streetside, and it's just down the street from the courthouse.
And there was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Okay, Ned, again, trying to find that missing piece of all of this. And we've got this video coming back from that luncheon. The judge is the one who calls for this private meeting, not wanting to talk about whatever they were talking about in front of other people at the luncheon. That's got to be, I would think, that sounds like it's connected to the lawsuit and this extortion that was taking place.
You know, you could maybe connect the dots there, you know, but to keep in context the lawsuit, what was going on, it's kind of why I agreed to do the civil rights case. You know, you do a case, one, for two reasons. One, to help the people in front of you. The other thing going on is these women in ankle bracelets, Vinny, they're so vulnerable to sextortion.
Yeah.
You know, they know a simple phone call to
Ned,
the judge.
I hate doing this. I'm out of time. We are going to talk again about this. Ned Pillersdorf, Elizabeth Jones, Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. Thank you both so much. So much to get to in this case. It's amazing how we have video of the alleged murder, very clear video, yet we still do not fully understand.
Okay. Now, let's go over.
That was real good.
Well, this right here, let me mute him. He's got all these videos, and we're going to watch them on this other channel that he's got. And I'm just going to mute him, and he lets them play more on this channel. And he just kind of chit-chats around. Let's see if we can get me and mommy in there. Okay. So this is the room. That's Michael Clark sitting on the windowsill. And then you've got the judge, and then you've got Mike Watts standing there next to him. He's our clerk. Then you got Mickey sitting down there. And now Matt Butler is the new Commonwealth attorney. he took Edison Banks's place. He was appointed. And he said in one of his videos that he released for like the county or whatever on Facebook, he had said in one of them that there was one of his assistants that was in that room. Well, I mistakenly thought he meant Michael. I was thinking Michael Watts was in there, which is Mike's son, but he wasn't. Michael Watts is not in this room whatsoever. That's Mike, his daddy. And see, there's that woman. She's Kevin's court clerk. Sits, yeah, court reporter or whatever. I don't know what she is, but she sits in the court with him.
Well, who's
and
the
she
other
does like all
with the black shirt and glasses?
With the black shirt and glasses, that's what I was going to say. So if Butler came out and said one of his assistants was in that room, then I'm thinking that's who he is, but I don't know who he is, or at least I can't tell. He's a little too far away, but I didn't recognize Tweety Bird sitting there on the windowsill either. There have been a whole lot of accusations against Tweety Bird as well, especially after all of this happened. I'm going to pull up that video of him here in a minute, but let's watch this first. And see, everybody's just kind of chit-chatting, chilling around. I heard somebody say, that Mickey was sitting there with his hands and he kept fidgeting with his hands and stuff, that maybe he didn't have armrests on that chair. But if you see, he's kind of a bigger dude, and that chair is kind of small. So it doesn't really look like
it up.
Yeah.
But he's got his hands over his head. That's a relaxed position.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exposed.
It is
exposed.
And see, I think everybody just stayed in there. Yeah, Tweety Bird. That's what his nickname is. That's what he goes by. Now, he's also the one who got pardoned by the governor. He had a whole bunch. Me and him are both from the same town, so across the mountain. So I know of him very well, and for the last 30 years. So he had several felony trafficking charges, convictions, not charges, convictions, rug trafficking. He used to be a real good athlete when he was young, but from Cumberland, a whole lot of people that were really good athletes in like Little League and stuff like that, well, whenever they got older, they got into the opioid crisis hit, and it hit our generation. Me and him are of the same generation. So anyway, when he got out of prison the last time, he started making him some videos preaching. And he picked him up a good following. But one of the things around here, if you notice, there's a preacher on every corner. And, not all of them are men of God. They really aren't. Some of them are really... Now, right here. Look at this. This is where I think he has words with Tweety Bird. Let me back it up some. I don't know what's being said, but I would sure, if you notice, he's sitting there doing this. He says something to that guy. Then he says something to Tweety Bird there. And look, and Tweety Bird looks like he smarts off to him or something. I don't know what he said. Right here, he says something, and the judge starts laughing. Now, I don't know what was said there, of course. But you see how Mickey's doing like this? With his hand on his chin.
He's fidgeting.
Well, he's thinking, and, he's thinking. it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to kind of read body language, and you don't really, I'm no body language expert and no lawyer or nothing like that. But, we know these people. Most of us who live here, we all know these people. So you kind of know their manner.
Well, he didn't have a happy like manner when he left. Mm-mm. I didn't think.
Mm-mm. And I caught that earlier when I was watching it. It looks like I don't know what bird is sitting there running off at the mouth about. He kind of got in a lot of trouble after this. He ended up, not really got in no trouble, but he had to leave his church, or he left his church, let me say it that way. And a whole lot of girls came out and said that he had been hitting on them because he's the community liaison, or he used to be. Now, what it was, I didn't finish what I was saying. So he started doing these videos and started getting him a following. And usually if they've got the gift of gab, honey, they can Pied Piper anybody. If people start talking about God and start talking about prayers and stuff like that, you just got to be careful. But so he ended up, somehow he went down there and they rolled out the red carpet for him to come into the jail and preach to the inmates. And they hired him at ARC. And then they hired him as the community liaison, and he stayed down there at the courthouse. He stayed down there. That was like his office. It was his job to get beds in the rehab into ARC for these defendants. That was his job. And there have been several people that have come forward and said, they didn't, there were different reasons for different people, but some of them, one guy said, I wasn't even an addict, but I was in some trouble. And they said, well, we'll get you a bed, and sent them down to the rehab. And they ended up rug testing them like 5 times when they got there, and they didn't have any rugs in their system. So he had to leave. They kicked him out. But they were trying to fix it to where, he could go to rehab and get out of his charges. There have been several people that have told me that they were promised, a deal of some kind, and that they weren't going to arrest them or whatever, and then they'd turn around and put them in jail. There's really some dirty stuff coming out, and none of this would have come out. I don't think none of this would have come out if this courthouse thing wouldn't have happened. Yeah. LS, Tweety Bird was the first one to make a beeline to Mickey's wife to provide comfort. Then he did videos about Mickey being mentally ill. And I'm telling you, that's why I think he did that. That's why I think he made this video I'm getting ready to show you here in a minute. Because they had this interaction. They had this back and forth before Mickey went out of there. Now, there's also a piece of this footage that has not been released yet. The piece that was right before the pew-pew, we don't have that. So, see, Mickey leaves. It shows Mickey leave, and all these other people are still in his office. And if you think back to when this first happened, here he goes. See, he's saying something to Tweety Bird right there. And then Bird says something back to him. And then Mickey says it, and watch the judge's face. Here, Mickey says it right here, and watch the judge. He's like, don't worry about it.
I say Mac Watts knows more than he's told us.
Oh, yeah. I bet he does. But, Mike has been very quiet Mike's not said a word that he did an interview right after it happened. I think he did the very first interview, maybe, with News Nation.
But
But
he didn't tell him what was going on in that office from this video.
he didn't tell them nothing. I was shocked when I saw it. It was Big Mike in there.
I'm shocked too.
Yeah. Rehab to get out of charges, but ARC is being paid to keep these individuals. Exactly.
I always felt ARC is a for-profit rehab.
It is.
So
You're right.
I always thought they were giving money back.
No, they're taking it from Medicaid.
I know, but I always thought they might have been paying them back.
Like
every time they sent somebody, they were,
those are kickbacks.
You use my products, I'll give you $1,000.
Those are what kickbacks are called.
Yes, and Medicare is paying for them.
And see, Tweety Bird started him a church. Well, he started it down there at Kane Kitchen. Well, I don't know if he started somewhere else first, but he ended up using Kane Kitchen to have his services. Well, that's right in town. It's right down the street from the courthouse.
It's in the old high school downtown.
Yep, it's in the old high school downtown. And so they had that big, huge area. And a lot of the people that were going to that church were people in recovery. He preached a good game. And when people are desperate and people are down on their luck and they've hit rock bottom, that's when people usually reach out to God the most. And a lot of the churches and the groups around here are good to help people when they need help. And so then it ended up, somebody told me that Judge Mullins was going around trying to find a building for the new church. I don't know, I forget exactly the details that they told me. But the judge was helping Michael find him a building that they could purchase for ARC, I guess through ARC, for the church and the rehab. And I guess it was going to be, they were building it up from the court, or from that program anyway. But so you see how relaxed they all are, and they all just laugh and giggle and have them a real good time. Now, what I said was that I saw somebody say in here that lawyer would have attorney-client privilege, so anything that was said in that deposition couldn't get back out. Well, if these people are essaying women on house arrest, I don't think attorney-client privilege, especially when they own the town and they own, just by sheer power alone, who would they fear? And who would be telling it? They ain't nobody going to tell it. So just if a lawyer knew something and then they went back to the courthouse and told their buddies, their judge friend or their lawyer friend or whoever, who's going to tell it? Who's going to know that he even told them? You know what I mean? You got to have proof about stuff like that. It's kind of the same thing, sentiment I had about juries. Do you really think jurors go home and don't talk to their husband? They don't talk to mom or dad. They don't watch the news. They don't watch nothing. I don't think people take stuff like that as serious as what they say they do, because I don't think there's that many people whose words can be trusted. How many people do you know do the right thing when nobody's looking?
So, what's the next video we're going to watch?
Well, hang on. We're still watching this.
Oh, we are?
Kinda. So let's, yeah. And everybody's kind of been real funky about the smoking. I looked it up, and smoking was banned in the Letcher County Courthouse in like 1994, something like that. It was in the 90s.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. But Kevin Mullins ran this courthouse. Judge Jimmy Kraft, he runs, present tense, this courthouse. You know, Mike Watts, he's a little bit newer to, but he's not really. His daddy was the circuit court clerk years ago. But they all smoke cigarettes. Used to, they would go out on the porch or on the sidewalk there and smoke. But the last few years, when the election happened and Mickey won the election, and then you had Bert Sloan win the jailer election, they started off with a room in the basement next to the jail. There was a room down there that was their smoking room. And as you'd go down there and knock on the door if you needed to talk to Kevin, and they'd open it and smoke would just come out rolling. I mean, it looked like Cheech and Chong's car, buddy. But then they moved it. They moved it upstairs, which really surprised me. But look there, you don't see anybody trying to get people to safety. You know, everybody just kind of pulls up. Like, is this normal? Is this how they train for an active pew-pew person? Because I ain't never seen nothing like this on the news in my life.
Well, they're probably in shock. They never probably had guns fired in the courthouse before.
Well, I know, but still, there should be some kind of protocol for that. It's starting to happen more and more and more in the world. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them too hard of a time. Maybe I'm giving them too hard of a time. Old Dad. Seems to me the Banks fellow run the show. I think so too, guys. Remember, Edison Banks was the Commonwealth attorney who had that little rug reeler girlfriend who was supposed to be his home health aide, who was running up and down the road in his official vehicle as Commonwealth attorney, transporting rugs and selling rugs. She didn't get in trouble, and she got caught. She got caught several times. She didn't get in trouble. Now, at the time that this happened, the pew-pew happened at the courthouse, Edison Banks was still here. This was September 21st. Edison Banks didn't pass away until like the beginning of November, the end of October, the beginning of November. So he was still a party, I guess you'd say. Katie, I have been listening as I am driving. This is a prime example of why I do not listen to Vinny or any of those other corporate media. He has a local person on his show and cannot shut up. I'm sorry. That's all right. That's all right. Their channel, their shows are kind of like time sensitive. Like they've got a segment for every minute. So they don't ramble like I do. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. Oh, no. Smoking is not permitted in most courthouses, including those in Kentucky. Still illegal for judges as well. Absolutely. I'm not saying this was a legal thing. It was outlawed in like 1994. I don't know how they got away with it, but they did. They did. Who was going to tell it? Who was going to say anything to them, y'all?
Well, what's next?
Okay. So, well, if you're tired of watching this, okay, let me stop sharing it. All right. Well, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Let me pull up this other video file. And so Bird took this down maybe, I don't know how long after he posted it, he took it down, but he got a lot of backlash over it. Let me see here. Let me see if this is it. Give me a second here. So what do you think, Mommy? Talk some.
Well, I haven't changed my mind one bit. I think there's bad stuff going on there, and I don't know what the trigger was, but something triggered Mickey, and I guess maybe he must have thought that Kevin was his friend and then decided he wasn't, that he was turning on him. Because, you know, that's a pretty big slap in the face is when you think somebody's your friend.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know how close he and Mickey was, but it seemed like that Mickey was close to Kevin Mullins, more so than the other people in the room on a personal level. Theirs was all more on a business level, like Mike Watson there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'd like to know what they were talking about.
It looked to me like they were just shooting the breeze, you know.
Well, Mike had some papers.
Mm-hmm. Well, now I heard that that before this happened, that they had a theft case involving Walmart before it all went down. So that's what I was thinking, that it was from that Walmart theft case, and that's why there was an assistant from.
Are you talking about the one where they chased him over to Virginia and killed people?
No, no, okay. It was like a theft case that they had down at Walmart. Somebody stole something from Walmart.
Okay. I was thinking that was an awful big deal for something stolen at Walmart.
Yeah.
So no, that's right, because that happened about last year. That those people got killed. Well, I think I'm going to go over here and lay down.
Well, I'm having a hard time finding that video. I don't know what I've done with it. It was supposed to be right. I don't know. So I'll have to find it and I'll show it on another show.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll leave this one here. We won't talk y'all's ear off. I've got a ton of stuff that we need to get up and do our shows on. This trial that we're watching during the day, the pig farmer trial. It's a bench trial. It's really, really, really interesting. And it's showing how misconduct on the part of prosecutors and how defense attorneys, when they don't do their job, you know, a lot of them do the bare minimum. And we've seen through this trial, this man has been convicted and even lost his appeal. But this is a post-conviction relief bench trial, and this outcome will determine if he gets a new trial. And it's really looking like he's an innocent man, another innocent man that has been railroaded into a life sentence. So come be with us during the day. I will plan. Want to talk about the high power bills that everybody's been getting. If you would like to share your power bill, you don't have to share your name or anything. Just hold your hand over it and take a picture of the price, how much your monthly bill is. Somebody sent me one the other day, and it was 2 months back to back, and they just put their hand over it, so all you can see is the increase in 2 months. Went from like a $250 a month electric bill to $1,000 in 2 months. How's that work? A lot of people in this area are affected by it. So we are going to discuss all that. I've got some really good numbers and figures of how much their top executives make on their salaries for AEP. So we're going to dig into that too. But anyway, we will see you all tomorrow. Have a good night. Thank you all so much. Let me run this down. TJ, the girl with the big dog. Thank you so much. Crystal C, we love you, girl. We love you. Hannah B, love you, love you, love you. Jersey Bread, thank you on the 10,000, you guys. Became a YouTube member. And Miss Jennifer, I'm so happy for you, Elizabeth. You were awesome. All right, thank you. Well, you guys have a good night, and we will see you in the morning. Peace out, Girl Scout.